What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Albin-Counter Gambit complete course. It's time for video number 3, and we're going to be seeing some crazy lines in today's video, so get ready for it. Now, after D4, we play D5. White wants to play the Queen's Gambit. We want to play the Albin-Counter. White takes. We're going to push D4. From this position, typically the knights come out. And from here, we've looked at E3 in the first video. We looked at A3 in the second video. But today, we're going to look at the most common move at Grandmaster level. And that's G3, with the obvious intention to fianchetto the bishop. And the best move here is what I would recommend. Keeping it simple. It's the same thing we recommended after A3, which is just knight E7, knight G E7. And this has the purpose of jumping over here to try to kind of gang up on this pawn. And there's going to be a lot of possibilities. After bishop G2, we simply make the leap over here to G6. 9 times out of 10, white will just castle here. And then we're going to be ready to start exchanging here on E5. If he tries to be overly aggressive here early on, attack like this, actually just recommend just sidestepping here. Queen D7. I want to move Queen D7 a little bit later anyway, so just helping us develop. If he castles now, maybe just kick that bishop out of there. Then we can get on with the capture here on E5, and that's perfectly fine. So alternatively, he may try just to hoard this pawn, try to see there's 2 protectors, try to add an extra protector to the pawn. This is not a very good move. I mean, you could just take it and just damage his pawn structure here. And now this bishop might have to play pawn if he castles king side. He's already moved this pawn, so if he castles queen side, there could be some weaknesses. Queens are still on the board, so I recommend just doing the simple move and just grabbing that pawn if he does play that bishop F4 move. But usually, white will just castle. And from here, we begin a series of captures by taking on E5. Most of the time, the knight will take, and then we take back. This position has been reached tens of thousands of times, and we have to be familiar with this position if we are going to play the Albin-Counter Gambit, especially in tournaments over the board. We can be ready and prepared to absolutely destroy our opponent if they make any mistake. So from this position, the 3 main moves are B3, bishop F4, and knight to D2. So those are the 3 most popular moves from this position. And what we're thinking about, one of the keys, I'm just going to throw this out there, is waiting for a untimely E3 move, which could get white into serious trouble if he tries to undermine this pawn at some point, which it's a tempting move. When white starts to run out of normal developing moves, they get tempted to play this E3. I see it time and time again, and I'll tell you how to get a serious advantage. But let's start with this move, simply B3, and the reaction is actually an interesting move, and it's bishop C5. And this bishop pointing up towards the king is going to possibly cause major problems for white if we can push this pawn or possibly capture here. And so, there's always going to be a particular way that this bishop can be a menace to white right here. And later on, we'll see some bishops coming up. This bishop will go on to F6, and it'll be the same idea of a discovered attack when we move this pawn forward, and could cause white major headaches. So I love this move, bishop C5. And we'll see a little later in a Grandmaster game that this move also caused white serious problems, even against a Grandmaster level player. This move can be super powerful if white makes any inaccuracies or mistakes. So 9th move, after the most popular move, B3, we play bishop C5. Most commonly right here is the fianchetto to bishop B2. And we're just going to castle. And let's say right here, let's just look at this move E3. If white decides, let me try to undermine the pawn, right? Already you see major problems. Why? Well, I'll show you. It starts with this move, bishop G4. And this pawn allowed us to attack the queen. And if he starts trying this F3 garbage, oh my goodness. And this position, you will get in this position if you play these moves, and white will play F3 often. And one of the most annoying things as a chess player, and you guys have probably been there, when you play, you're trying to attack and they play this little pawn move and you're like, damn it. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to move my bishop, but I want to continue the attack. I don't know if, what should I do? I don't know what to do. I don't want to back up here, and then I don't want to retreat. What do we do right here? Check this out. You're not going to believe it. D takes E3. What? Wait a second. We're willingly trading queens. Our knight is hanging. My bishop is hanging. Everything's hanging. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This bishop is pointing now towards the king, and we're prepping a possible discovered attack with E2. Even if white wants to trade queens, white is in huge trouble right here because of discovered attacks, possible promotions, all kinds of stuff, and also some crazy sacrifices and moves that we'll have at our disposal. And the actual truth is right now, white is completely lost if we find the right move. So let's just say right here, white sees the problem and says, you know what, I'm not even going to, I'm not going to allow this push capture. Let me just move the queen right here to E2 and just kind of blockade this pawn so the pawn can't move forward. And I'll worry about grabbing one of these pieces later because the attack continues. White might think they're better right here because they're attacking a couple of pieces. And now the queen has moved here and kind of neutralized this threat of E2. But we got a crazy move right here. Can't believe this move works. Ladies and gents, knight takes F3 check. What? Wait a second. How's that work? We got a million pieces here protecting that square. How could that possibly work? Well, we want to get this queen off of E2, first of all, so that we can get this push in. And right now, if we start trading, taking something here, we may be able to make a move to distract this queen, throw in a check, capture here. Let me just show you. If rook takes on F3, we got the most insane move. Take a moment if you'd like and see if you can find a move that will distract this queen and allow this pawn to move forward, throwing in the check and winning the game. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, Queen D1 check. Sacrifice the queen temporarily because a replacement is on the way. E2 check. What a move. And now we're going to make a new queen if the king moves. But no matter what, white is completely lost right here. And after like rook F1, we'll just move, protect ourselves, and black has won this game. What a wild move right there. So after, let's back up here, just kind of recap because it's so crazy. But simply, all we've done is play our opening moves and we've castled. And if something like E3, and it may work even before this bishop fiend shadows, if they play E3, just keep an eye on this move. And if he plays this, we don't capture yet. First we take. That way we have created this threat, okay? And I showed you if queen here, we take here. I guess we should look at the second possible capture. I mean, he may go bishop F3, probably more likely will take with the bishop because they don't want to lose their rook. So bishop takes F3. And here, same thing, but we can't play it quite yet. There's a little too much support here on D1. So first we'll grab the bishop. Bishop takes F3. And if the queen takes back, boom, E2, check, can't capture here, not a legal move. The king has to move, and now we can just, well, let's just grab this make a queen out of it. And if the queen takes back, well, let's take a little inventory of how we're looking here. Black is actually up an entire piece and completely winning this game. And that's with white doing everything they can to defend, and the king is completely exposed. If we back up a little bit, after the bishop takes, I guess he could try. Rook takes here, but guess what? Same thing. Same thing. He has to take, or we're going to take. Bam! So what an amazing sequence right there. So keep that one in mind. Keep that one in your toolbox. It will happen more often than you think with the Albin-Counter Gambit. So let's stack up, see if there's any lines we didn't quite look at after this move and the attack. And after this move, don't take here with the knight. We take here first. That's a key move. Did I show you this? I think so. If queen exchanges first, if queen says, oh, let's just clear things out with the queen trade. We're going to recapture with the knight, with the rook on a8. So rook a takes d8. And, okay, what does white do here? We're still threatening this check. So if he just takes, just goes greedy, this check is coming in and they're going to just win the game easily. Same thing if he takes this guy. This check is coming in. So white has to do something about this discovered check right here after the queen trade. Queen's off the board and the threat remains right here for black. So maybe white just sidesteps the king, thinking, okay, let me just get out of this pin right here. And now I'm attacking two pieces. Maybe white thinks they're surviving here. E2 anyway. Yes, it's not a discovered attack, but we are attacking the rook. And if rook e1, well, why not just knight takes f3, attacking the rook? And if bishop takes, guess what? Wow. That's the ball game, ladies and gents. So bishop can't take this knight. Otherwise, it's something known as checkmate. Maybe just develops the knight, knight c3. But now we just take the rook. Rook takes e1. And now, well, from here, there's a few ways to try to win this, but I think just simply bishop f2 is the most simple. Attack the rook, scare the rook off, promote, or take the rook. Either way, black completely winning this game right here. Obviously, this knight prevents us from jumping up here at the moment, but going to win this game, going to promote, and wow, just an insane attack right there. So just something to keep in mind. And again, like I said, even if he does it before this fianchetto, let's just say we haven't castled and he plays it now. It still works. Bam. And it plays this. Bam. It still works. So it doesn't have to be that exact position. I mean, calculate and see if it's working. But if ever white, while you're playing this opening, plays this e3 move, you might have an attack here. And if they push, you might be able to just take and threaten this, because that was the whole reason we put this bishop here on c5. And it's causing white major problems after that e3 move. So just wanted to show you that. But bishop b2, and we're on the 10th move here. We're just going to castle. We looked at this e3 blunder right here from white. But let's just say white doesn't blunder and plays the better move, just simply knight d2. We're going to respond with this with a5. a5 is the next move. And from this position, this is a standard position right here. Typically, several moves are tried here. a3 is a possibility. And we're just going to continue to develop and try to get a good game. We'll look at this position a little bit later in a Grandmaster game. That was between two Grandmasters, and we'll look deeper into it. But always keep in mind, even now after a5, look, if e3, bam, same thing. And if this, same thing. It still works. And now we're even attacking the knight. So just bear in mind, it doesn't have to be in that exact order. This can work in various positions. You know, some of the pieces might be in a little different. You know, every game's slightly different, almost every game. But this move, putting this bishop there, could cause major problems. It's a glorious attack to think about here, and just waiting for that e3 move. Some opponents won't play it, but it'll happen quite often. And it's crazy because, once again, if in this position, like we said, even if king moves here, it's a little bit different than before, but black's still so much better right here. We could just save the bishop here. Obviously, we don't have this discovered attack anymore. But if he tries to move his knight, I mean, there's not a lot of places to move this knight. If he tries to go backwards, I mean, that can't be good. Probably just trade off the queens. And then from here, leap forward. We are now putting some protection on this promotion square and just running over white right here. And I'm not sure, you know, tries to be aggressive. We ain't got no time for that. We'll just fork the rook here, and the rook's not even protected. So just a few examples of how you can just absolutely run white over with this poorly timed e3 move. Let's jump back to the opening moves here. After the fianchetto, we played knight ge7. Fianchettos, we jump over here. We looked at castles. We trade here in the middle. And from this position, we looked at b3. Now we're looking at bishop out to f4, just attacking the knight. What we want to do, what we want to not do is take this pawn. That's a poison pawn. You're going to get into some trouble if you grab that pawn. So we want to just back up to g6 and attack the bishop. Not going to let you take and damage the pawn structure. If it does, then take it. But more than likely, it's going to go back. And again, don't take this pawn, this queen check. We'll pick up the knight. So we're just going to jump back here. Bishop back to d2. And here the simple c6. This allows this bishop to get out without having to worry about the b7 pawn, kind of blunting the attack here of the bishop on g2. And okay, here in this position, it's a little safer for white to play e3, and it is the most common move. We don't have this protected check, not check, but attack on the queen right here, with the knight being here. So it's a little bit different than the other position. And I suggest we're just going to grab it right away. Bishop takes back, and here we have the option to trade queens, and we're going to go ahead and do that. Queen takes, rook takes here, the 13th move, and this is the point, this position that has been reached quite a few times. And if we play these moves that I said, you'll reach this position at some point, and we want to centralize this knight on e5, a rare move, but a move that's going to set up some big possibilities. We're attacking this pawn, hoping to entice white to play the simple b3 to protect the pawn. It's not a terrible move, but it's kind of a slow move. It's just a little pawn move, and we're getting our pieces out. Bishop g4, attacking the rook. Again, f3 here would just be a little less likely because we have two pieces on f3, so we could just pretty much take it. So obviously, you can see that's just terrible. We'll throw a check in right here and with the knight. So what is white to do here? Obviously, with the attack on the rook's going to move. There's not a whole lot of great squares. For example, if he goes to e1 right here, well, we have knight d3. We're going to jump up and attack him, and he can't even go down because the bishop's got that square. Can't go here, can't go here. The rook actually has to back up here to f1, kind of underdevelop. And from this position, we can go ahead and attack the rook one more again. And now he's got nowhere to go. Not too bad. So not a good move there. Let's go back to the original attack on the rook. So we looked at if the rook goes here, which is kind of an automatic move. Rook will go to e1 sometimes. Goes over here, we can still attack. It's a little bit better for white because he's got some more escape squares. But, I mean, if he has to go down to c3, it looks kind of funny. And believe it or not, we can just castle here. Rook will protect the knight. So pretty good development. And black's doing pretty damn good in this position. So any other good ideas for the rook here? Obviously, e1's not great. c1's not great. Maybe he'll try d2. But we're just going to harass this rook. We're just going to harass this rook no matter what. So rook b4. And now the rook's like, oh my God, I got to move again. Rook's just going to be moving around, and we're doing just fine here. So just harassing the rook, getting our pieces in good attacking spots, and black's doing well. But we do have to look at the best move, I guess, from this position after we've attacked the rook here. Probably just rook d4 immediately. Rook d4 immediately. This is a very close game. We can just play f6 and just try our best from here and hold the game as best we can. But just goes to show you white has to play very accurately because we're prepared in this opening right here, and maybe not so much. White can go wrong in a lot of ways right here, but if he attacks your bishop, we might just throw in a check, and we're attacking the rook, so it kind of forces a trade right here, and black's doing okay in this position. Recapping again, after we had the trade here, we looked at bishop here, we back up right away, attacking. Bishop goes back to d2 here on the 10th move. We're going to play the simple c6. And let's say instead of e3 here, plays a very common move, is queen c2. And here we're going to play bishop e7. Maybe to come here to f6, which is going to be a common theme as well in some of these positions. Like I said earlier, possibly getting ready to move this pawn forward for some discoveries. But we'll start just with bishop e7 after a move like queen c2. And after maybe a3, trying to expand over here, we can just castle. And continues expansion, trying to be aggressive. This is a good time as any to go bishop f6, because now we're actually pointing towards that rook and getting ready for discovered attack on the rook. And we'd also be attacking the queen if this queen were to stay here. For instance, just some random move. And you can see white with serious problems now. We're attacking the rook, we're attacking the queen. So from here, if the queen seizes, maybe queen d3. Again, we've seen this before, just trying to actually blockade. Like, of all jobs a queen can do, this is one of the worst jobs for a queen, just to stand here and try to prevent my pawn from moving forward. But there are positions in the Albin-Counter where we can do just that. And here, queen d3 to try to prevent. But we have a little move. It's called, let's attack that queen and force the queen to get the heck out of the way. And we're absolutely crushing it right here. Queen doesn't have a whole lot of even options here. It goes to some random place like b3. Right now, okay, the knight's kind of blocking our bishop, but let's just develop here another bishop pointed towards the king. That's the queen. That's scary for white. Now white's got to be like, oh, great. Now I got to worry about my queen. Something like this could come into play. So this is what white's thinking right now. So maybe let me just get back to the back rank, get the heck out of this attack that's going on, and we're just going to go ahead. Now we can just start taking stuff and just trying to defend. White has just gotten into deeper trouble here, and I mean, it's avoided major catastrophe, but you could see the advantage from black is pretty overwhelming right here. And now we are again looking at that rook, so white has to be extremely careful right here, but completely lost in this position. So just goes to show some of the dangerous lines from the Albin-Counter. These aren't just stupid moves. I'm showing you moves that white will actually make, and we're ready to pounce on. But let's go back to that 11th move. So we've backed up. The bishop is backed up to d2. The simple c6 on move 10. Try to remember that. And let's say now, instead of e3, instead of the queen here, let's say tries to develop the knight. Knight a3. That we can just take it, but I don't like to get rid of this bishop. I like this bishop to go here and here. So it's just simply bishop e7. And now maybe knight c2, trying to attack our pawn, even though it's protected for the moment. And you can play bishop f6 already, but I think better, let's go ahead and bring out our other bishop. Try to see if we can get white to go wrong here. And maybe he plays h3, trying to scare us away. Okay, we'll drop back to bishop e6. So we have some pressure here. And simply b6 to protect. Now let's throw in our bishop f6. And now we're attacking that rook again through the pawn, getting ready to push, attacking the knight in this case. This game is technically even, but we're throwing a lot of bullets white's way. Can he dodge them all? Let's say right here, rook c1 to try to get that rook out of trouble. Here we can just play queen d7. And okay, white's doing pretty well, but he's somehow avoided all these major attacks, but we're still equalized. We've still equalized. And even now, something just like e3 now, trying to undermine the pawn, like I said earlier, watching for this move. This is a totally different position, but still, you can see not a very good move. We can just push d3, attacking the knight. Knight maybe backs up here, but this knight's running out of squares real quick here, isn't he? Uh-oh. I don't have anywhere to go. So, Albin-Counter Gambit, creating big issues, just waiting for white to go wrong somewhere, some way. And there's one more position we haven't looked at from here. This is after the trade sequence on e5. We looked at this move. We looked at this move. Also the occasional just simple knight to d2 on this 9th move. Bishop e7. Just keep it simple. Remember, after this, bishop goes here. After this, bishop comes out down here. We just drop back with the knight. And after knight here, we're just going to play simple bishop e7. Some of the other lines are just not going to work as well. There's no reason to drop the knight just yet. And coming out here doesn't work as well in this position because the knight can now jump over here and bother this bishop. So we're just going to go ahead and play the simple bishop e7 right here. And now if knight f3, which is the most common move by far, knight f3 right here, we're just going to take, bishop takes back, and then c6 now. And there's a few moves white could try, but maybe the simple b3. We're now going to go bishop f6, and we have, if b3, definitely bishop f6 for sure, and we set up this attack again. Of course, white has the option to go just bishop b2. We simply castle, and doing pretty well right here. So let's go back again. Opening moves, just to recap, takes, knights come out, g3 is played, knight jumps here, fianchetto, knight jumps here, castles. We have our sequence of trades, and this is our starting point. We've looked at this, we've looked at this, we've looked at this. We're still looking here at knight, simply d2 on the 9th move, bishop e7 in that case. Let's say knight f3, knight takes, bishop takes, c6. And now let's say from this position, instead of b3, the weird bishop f4. What's going on here? This move, we see this move in this opening. Sometimes after we castle, we're going to think about maybe trapping this bishop. If this bishop ever ends up on f4, g5 might come into play. Obviously, we can't do it right now. Well, you can, but he's got some escape squares. Maybe we can play a few moves and wait for him to play e3 and then maybe trap that bishop. So let's say queen c2 from white, connecting the rooks, developing his queen, trying to add some pressure. The first step in this sequence is bishop h3. We want to get rid of that rook right off the bat. So rook is going to move maybe to d1. And now the famous bishop f6. Bishop f6, getting ready to maybe move this pawn at some point, but we're just going to play bishop f6. And if e3, look at the line, g5. And the bishop is completely trapped. So bishop will have to probably take here, bishop will take here, and it turns out we're completely winning here. Maybe rook takes there in the center. Queen f6, get out the way. We're doing just fine. Bishop might try to trade off. Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's keep our bishop on the board. And black is doing great here. And if some move like this, just trying to be aggressive, I think you might have neglected your rook there. So it's the kind of things that can happen in this opening. But this is not just queen. That's just one example. That's an example. Let's just try some different moves. If this bishop goes here, once again, after castling, let's say queen goes, what did we say before? Here? I mean, queen could go here. And basically the same thing applies. Starting with bishop h3, rook moves, bishop here, and if he plays e3, the bishop is trapped. So just keep that in mind. And even if he doesn't play even if he doesn't play e3, sometimes you can still play that move. For instance, a3. Look, still works because the queen is blocking his escape. So doing pretty well. So just keep in mind this possibility of g5. Let's see some alternative moves after this bishop's here. We're thinking about g5. Let's say he doesn't play any of those moves. He just plays b5. Well, actually, he probably won't play that because it hangs. Let's say he plays a3, getting ready to expand over here. Well, we can still attack this rook. There's nothing wrong with that. Rook will move here, for instance. Now, can we play this right now? It's actually not that bad. Look at black still with the edge because, yeah, bishop will move. But after queen d7, we've got a nice attack going of our own. So let's say b4 is played. Slide our rook over, just continue to develop. He tries to mess our, tries to just break through here. And just move the bishop aside like usual. Trying to move forward, attacking the rook here. So bishop f6 still working. We're holding on here. And if he takes here, okay, he's attacking the queen. So we pretty much have to take back. But it's a crazy looking position. Pawns all over, kind of scattered position. But black's still with the edge. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting necessarily G5 if you're not going to absolutely trap the bishop, but sometimes it's still a move, even if it doesn't completely trap the bishop, as you can see. And one wrong move by white, E3, yeah, I wouldn't suggest that, because after we take here, we're attacking the bishop, we're attacking the rook, so he's going to have to decide what to do here. So it's all bad. So love this attack, this bishop on F6. Just keep that in mind. Keep in mind, if possible, G5 if this bishop comes out here to F4. Just a few things to keep in mind in this opening. And you can see these very exciting attacks, and they work even if the exact moves don't have to be played. You just keep some of these things in mind. These are things to keep in mind, the Albin-Counter Gambit in this G3 variation that occurs after these moves. And then we trade here on E5. And this is where all the magic happens from this position. But I'll show you one of my early one game that I'll show you that I played, and then I'll show you a Grandmaster game. So this is one of my games here, an over-the-board game where I got the Albin-Counter Gambit. My opponent took, I pushed, the knights came out, and my opponent played G3. Of course, knight E7. Then, bishop fianchetto, knight here. It's crazy, all the same moves. But right here, my opponent didn't castle. They actually played bishop to G5, attacking my queen. What's going on here? Don't like this, but the standard response to this is not to, I mean, this is not the worst move, but just sidestep it. Queen D7. My opponent castled. I said, dude, get the heck out of my territory if you don't mind. But instead of getting out of my territory, my opponent decided to back up. You see this a lot when you try to attack a knight, a bishop in your territory. The bishop will just back up. But right here, there's no pin or anything. He's just pointed towards nothing. Not to mention, he has nowhere to go here. So I could just take that guy if I want to. And I said, well, why not? I thought he would take with the pawn. I kind of forgot he had this knight here. So the knight took back, but still, I'm already pretty much equalized here after 10 moves. So here I saw the pawn hanging. After a little bit of thinking, I thought, well, I'll just grab that. And then my opponent, being the aggressive player he is, F4. Now, let's take a think here. Let's take a moment to look at this, because I first of all, I don't want to move his knight if I don't have to. Do I have any? I was like, wait a minute. Actually, maybe I don't mind moving the knight. It's a pawn right here. I think I'll grab this pawn. I did think about, always think about the consequences. Like, I'm going to go here. What's white going to do? Is he going to attack me? I'm not going to be trapped or anything, right? Oh, it doesn't look like I'm trapped. I got some places to go. So I thought I'm okay, not to mention here in a protected square, which is also a fork. So this actually looks like a nice square to be. So I get a pawn out of the deal. So knight takes there on the 11th move, but queen D3 was played here, which attacks the knight. Doesn't prevent knight E3 though. It's not a fork, but I can still go there. I think I still will go there. Knight E3. My opponent, his rook is attacked, so drop down rook E2. I decided to go ahead and trade here on G2, just because that knight's kind of, I just thought, let's just get rid of that knight. I'm feeling the advantage is going my way here. Rook took on G2, and now decided just to develop with bishop D6. Yes, I'm blocking off the protection of this pawn, but I figure, well, if he takes here, I might have a little trap. It doesn't really work right away, but I'm looking at this future possibility of this bishop pinning the queen to the king. And as it turns out, if he takes here, I just sidestepped queen C6, hoping to get this in and win the queen. Maybe a little hope chest, but I'm still doing great. I still got a huge advantage here. But white saw it, played king H1, but then the move that I think turned the game around, or not turned the game around, but pretty much made white rethink his life, was bishop H3. And this rook is pinned, and white resigned right here, knowing that no matter what, this rook is going down, and he's just getting absolutely destroyed. So you've seen some crazy attacking lines here in today's video on the response to the G3 move. Let's check out a Grandmaster game. This is between Grandmasters Stefan Peterson and Julio Zadorra. Julio Zadorra is black. He played D5. Queen's Gambit. Nope. oops, little mistake there. Albin-Counter Gambit. So a little misclick. On the third move, takes, pushes, the knights come out, and from here, Peterson played G3. Zadorra, E7, knight E7, knight G E7, gotta get that right, knight G E7, bishop to G2, and then knight jumped here, right? We've gone over all this, castles, we went over that, and from this position, we trade, and from here, if B3, what do we play? Remember, bishop C5. If white had played bishop here, we would back up here, and if he played knight to D2, simply bishop to E7, but because he played this move, we bring our bishop out to C5, creating all kinds of possible problems for white, even in a Grandmaster game. And I'll show you how that worked. Next move here is bishop B2 from white, and black went ahead and castled. Now knight D2, and we saw this position a little earlier in the video. A5 is the move. So from here, let's just enjoy the ride. So after A5, white played A3, and then it was bishop G4 from Zadorra, putting immediate pressure, just tempting white to play F3.
Ooh, F3 double question mark, losing all. What a blunder.
Instead, he played H3. Had he played F3, like some of your opponents, and I believe a lot of your opponents will play F3 instead of H3, and you can see it's a lot more weakening. We don't have any crazy sacrifices in this particular position, but this discovered check is there. It doesn't work quite as well as before when we capture and we can push here. So don't just always assume that this works. In this particular case, because there's no capture that would allow us to then push and then attack, and make queens and things like that. We just have to back up. But white has really weakened his king side here, and we are possibly going to have this move in the future. Let's back up here and see how that game actually went after A3, and the bishop came out. White played the better move, H3, and then black just dropped back to H5. Here, Peterson played knight F3, and Zadorra backed up knight C6 after queen to D2 and rook E8. White played rook Fe1, just kind of developing. So far, black has gotten a slight edge here already, but it's close. Black played queen D6, connecting the rooks in the queen in aggressive square here. But white decided to do one more aggressive. Queen all the way to G5, attacking the bishop. Possibly, I don't know what's going to happen here, but this is scary stuff, obviously. But Zadorra simply backed up bishop to G6. There's no real threats right away. Is he going to play this move, hoping that with the take and the mate, which now it's not a mate because the bishop is blocking the queen's path to G7. But right now, even if he did try this, it's still a huge mistake. After takes and takes, just bring our other rook over, and black with the clear edge right here with a lot of power, and everything is defended pretty well. And I don't think there's a whole lot to worry about in this position right here. So he tries to trade off bishops or something, but it's fine. Still completely winning here. And that's just one way white could go a little bit wrong here. But in this particular case, the bishop just backed up, and white decided to try bishop knight to H4, attacking the bishop. Just coming very forceful at black. From here, rook E5. Funny looking move, but very effective move in attacking the queen, saying, what are you even doing? You got nothing? Go away. So queen F4. And now we got a nice place to bring the other rook. So we line up our rooks here. Everything is protected. There's a lot of protection here on D4. Nothing's happening there. And anytime, E3 is, white once has the guts to try that, you get into a lot of trouble with that move. So what to do here? Does he just take here? What to do? Again, if E3, we're going to take it. We're going to just completely run white over. So he decides to get rid of that bishop. Knight takes G6. Here, well, no reason to mess the pawns up. Our rooks protect each other. So queen takes G6. And after queen backs up to d2, pretty much saying, okay, attack's not really working, time to regroup, back to d2. Now queen h5. Hey, we're going to be the ones attacking. At some point, if this pawn can move, who knows what kind of possibilities can come into play, but we're just stacking up. And, you know, anytime this pawn moves, that's major problems, just inviting trouble. So what is white to do here? He decides on a crazy move, g4, which just allows black to get closer to white, and now the attack is real. Wow. So white obviously sees this being a grandmaster, and he tries to, we've seen this before multiple times, blockade with the queen. Queen has to get stuck blocking traffic as a powerful law enforcement official, stuck there just blocking, just taking care of traffic. The worst job possible. Can't do anything else but stand here and stop the d-pawn from moving forward and creating major issues for white. So queen d3. But now we're busting through anyway. It's time for h5. And right here, if pawn takes, probably the rook would have came over here and just created all kinds of problems for white and just too much pressure. So white decided, well, can't take, decided to go ahead and play bishop to c1. But now black takes, h takes here. And the purpose of this move was to jump over here, bishop f4, attacking the rook and maybe playing a little defense here. Do we need to move this rook right here? I don't know. I think not. Pawn takes on, I take the rook. I genuinely take the rook. Completely plummeting you right here. We're breaking through. If you got the guts to take that rook, you can have it. Instead, it was bishop g3 attacking the queen and the rook. Seemingly a pretty good move. If he would have just taken the rook here, then we just, you know, expose the king, threatening mate, and this is not survivable right here. After takes, we're coming over, and the rooks are just out of play right here. It is just have too much work to get in the game. We're dynamic, we're attacking, and there's no surviving this. It's just absolutely no surviving this for white. So in this particular case, after this move and this move, bishop backed up here to b3 on the 26th move, but this game is pretty much over at this point, and simply queen h6. We're going to stay on this line. I'll stay here with the attack, offer you this rook. You can have that if you'd like. Bishop d5 was tried. Maybe some kind of counterattack. I'm not really sure, but this game is completely over after rook g5. The move we wanted to play earlier anyway gets in, and white tried king h1, but here bishop d6. Like, we're getting rid of this guy, opening this file up if you take, and game's pretty much all but over here. Queen f3. White's just desperately trying to hang on, but after rook e7, throws in the towel and resigns. So just one way at Grandmaster level that the Albin-Counter Gambit can completely destroy white. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe if you did here for part 3 of the Albin-Counter Gambit, and lots of crazy attacking lines. And if you want more, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for part 4 of the Albin-Counter Gambit series. We ain't slowing down, and we have so many more moves to talk about. Even from this position, there's tons of different moves. It doesn't always take here. There's different moves we have to be ready for. And from here, there's some moves that we have to be ready for as well. We've talked about these 3. In the next video, we'll look at some alternate attempts from this position and some other moves that we'll see from the opening, and get deeper into the Albin-Counter Gambit. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.